let's talk a little bit expectation wise. And this leads into talking about the season as a whole and what it means for this game. The past weekend of SEC football, and it's easy to kind of, when you get a chance to really sit down and watch a lot of other games, did that influence how we feel about Mississippi State's chances the rest of the way? Because look, State started off the season 4-0. And once that happened, we talked a lot about, okay, the expectation now is to go to a bowl game. Like, even though the schedule is going to be difficult the rest of the way, the expectation is to go to a bowl. And you are 4-0, and you're saying we just got to find 2 more wins over the last 8 games. Like, that's your expectation. And that expectation continued in the loss to Tennessee, because you go to overtime and absolutely had the lead in the fourth quarter against a top 15 team in Tennessee. Absolutely could have won that football game. And while you lost, that was another sign of, okay, this team is pretty good. Like, this team has a chance to find wins. But then you have the injuries that you do. You get embarrassed at Texas A&M in just an ugly game. And then you look at the way the results played out this weekend and over the last couple of weeks, where Florida, as we're talking about, did beat Texas a couple weekends ago. And obviously they didn't look very good at Texas A&M, but they were in that game early. And then we find out Texas is still actually okay after they beat Oklahoma. So Texas isn't just a terrible pushover team. Georgia has kind of continued to handle business. And I know they didn't, like, who did they even play this weekend? Why am I completely blanking on Georgia's?
Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn.
At Auburn. At
Georgia,
Auburn.
Yeah, I shouldn't be blanking on that game because that's one I watched throughout. Did Georgia look super impressive at Auburn? No. But it's also Georgia. And I think it's hard if you're a Mississippi State fan to envision your chances of beating Georgia. Arkansas was in it against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee got up big, and Arkansas was able to get some scores to make that thing closer at the end. But Arkansas, we know they can score, and you're on the road. Are they going to be better moving forward? Ole Miss didn't look very good, but how much of that was just a game that they were just taking off? So I think that's all of the future opponents Mississippi State has. Oh, Missouri. Missouri loses to Alabama, but Missouri was in that game. Like, that was a competitive game without, and that's a very good team that you're going to go on the road against. And I had a friend message me that, like, he's like, I think we're going 0-8. Like, I don't think we're winning an SEC game the rest of the way. And I kind of sat there, and I had a hard time arguing against him because I'm sitting here in the moment just based on the Mississippi State team I've seen and what a lot of these other teams are doing. I'll admit, I kind of got, like, there was a moment there where I'm like, I'm really worried about State's chances of finding a couple wins the rest of the way. Like, I think it's going to be a much tougher task than previously thought. And I do kind of think, like, it's going to be a grind. And I think this is why this game's going to be really huge. What I will say, though, and I'll get your thoughts on this in just a sec. We're doing all this, looking at these other teams, and, like, man, all these teams, like, have a chance to win games. Should we? But we're also throwing out the fact Mississippi State did show against Tennessee they can compete. And they did show against Arizona State they can beat a solid team. I know Arizona State has got handled against Utah. They didn't have their quarterback, Like, are we doing too quick? Are we too quickly dismissing that Mississippi State also has the ability to jump up and win a game? Maybe they're not supposed to. Or are we right to be concerned about the schedule the rest of the way that, like, based on what we've seen, it'd be tough for Mississippi State to find a couple wins?
I think it kind of goes to both sides there. I mean, I think we have the right to be concerned going forward, but, if Jeff Lebby can really get this team together, I don't see why he can't get them to, hey, we've been in this moment before. We were able to beat a team like Arizona State. We were able to beat teams. Well, I guess they really only beat Arizona State, and I'm not going to sit here and say that was a fluke win. I think it was a great win. You beat a top 12 team at home. I don't, man. I don't know because you kept it close with Tennessee. You were a play or two away in overtime to winning that game or continuing it at least. I don't think they should throw in the towel though, for sure. Like, I think you got to get your hopes up a little bit as you continue SEC play that, hey, we can compete. We can get in this game. Whether it's Florida this week, if it's Texas, even if it's Arkansas, dude, like just get that motivation and energy built up in you if you're Mississippi State and go win some football games.
I think a good thing to look, a way of looking at it is I don't know that there's a single home game Mississippi State has the rest of the year where you would say, based on what we have seen from the opponent, Mississippi State has no shot. I understand Texas just beat Oklahoma. Looks like they figured some things out. Texas's offense still is not very good, and Texas did just get handled against Florida, and you're playing that game at home. Georgia has been kind of up and down on this, and you're getting that game at home. I'm not blown away by what I've seen from Georgia to this point. Ole Miss, I think, has not been that impressive of a team. Keep in mind, like, they were kind of ugly against Kentucky. And I understand Trinidad didn't play that game, but Trinidad played against Arkansas. They easily could have lost to Arkansas. They could have lost to Washington State with Trinidad playing, and Trinidad's a very good quarterback. So you've got these 4 SEC, I guess it's 3 SEC home games remaining. Yes, are all those teams better than Mississippi State? For sure. Can we rule out Mississippi State being able to jump up and win any one of those games? I don't think so. And then there is also a point to be said, like Florida, situationally, like what is their mindset going into this weekend? What is Arkansas's mindset when you play there? Missouri, I think that team's probably going to be up and ready to play, but that game falls in a weird place for the Tigers. Like scheduling-wise, Missouri is a team that let's see, where does that game fall for Mississippi State? It is sandwiched between a home game against Texas A&M and a road trip to Oklahoma. That is a situation where you could potentially catch Missouri in a sleepwalk game. So I think if you see the Mississippi State team you saw against Tennessee, and I know it was a loss, but if you get that team and if you can clean some things up down the stretch, I think you can still find a couple of wins. It's going to be difficult, and this is a pivotal game for it. But I'm not going to just sit here and say there's no chance this team – admittedly, like I said earlier, in the moment I was kind of like, crap, I think you're kind of right. I don't know if they're going to be able to win another game. I do think we have to sit back and understand Mississippi State is also in the grouping of teams that could jump up and beat someone. Now, you got to do it twice, but I think it's possible. Now, that does lead to the final question that we're going to talk about here. Is this a must-win in Gainesville for Mississippi State? Considering you're coming off a bye, you've got to at some point got to turn things around in conference play. I know you're 4-2 on the year. I know it's on the road, and if you're 4-3, could you, after everything I just said, could you technically still find 2 wins the rest of the way? Yes, but from a mentality standpoint, at what point do you just have to find a win? I kind of feel like this might be a must-win game for Mississippi State against Florida.
I think if you're really trying to get to a bowl, I think this is a must-win, and I think Arkansas is a must-win. You could get the Texas game, even though we saw what they did against Oklahoma, but what do you really want to roll the dice there, man? I mean, I'm gonna stick to the fact that this is must-win for State, just based on the fact the rest of the schedule. Just based on that, I'm saying yes, it's a must-win game.
I think, man, I'm kind of leaning in the same spot, and I'm not going to do the thing. I follow a good bit of Barstool content, and Barstool, they always like to mess with each other over, like, is it a must-win? Is it a can't-lose? And if somebody declares a game a must-win and then they lose that game, it's like they then berate them the rest of the year, like, oh, well, you said it was a must-win, and they lost the game, so clearly season over. I'm not going to say season's over if Mississippi State loses this football game. Mm-hmm. I understand that, yes, they could still find a couple of wins. But I think if your chances of really getting, like, in order to feel confident Mississippi State's going to get to a bowl game, Mississippi State's going to take that next step that you want to see, this, to me, is the prime opportunity. And I don't think Florida is that bad of a football team. I understand you're on the road. They've got a good defense. They have an offense that, when it's clicking, can actually be okay. I understand all that. But overall, it's a Florida team that offensively, they have not been very good outside of one game. And they've had serious issues. Defensively, they're pretty good, but there are ways you can attack them. And there is no excitement or buzz around that program whatsoever. You have a head coach and Billy Napier that knows he is fired. Like, this is it for them. And maybe Sunbelt Billy pulls another one out of his rear like he always does, and he finds a way to get the win to keep himself around for a couple more weeks and appease things. But this is a prime opportunity for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State to show, hey, no, like we've moved up and we can take down teams in the conference. And when we get an opportunity in front of ourselves, we can get it done. So this is a huge, huge game for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State.